Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going straight to the heart of ancient power, into the really chaotic and dangerous first days of King Darius I of Persia.
Right, and this isn't a story of some gradual change.
No, not at all. This is a chronicle of character, of calculated cruelty, and the kind of cold, hard genius it takes to turn a shared rebellion into an absolute monarchy.
It's so important that you understand the atmosphere at the time. I mean, Darius wasn't a traditional heir.
He was one of 7.
Exactly. One of 7 conspirators, high nobles, who had just risked everything to overthrow the Magian ruler. So he has to go from being, one of the guys with the sword to this single sovereign leader.
Literally overnight.
Overnight. And that intense political volatility is the backdrop for everything we're about to see. Every act of violence, every bit of strategy.
And the sources give us this incredible clue to the kind of ruler he would become. His predecessor, Cyrus, he was called the father. Cambyses was feared as the master. But Darius gets a very different nickname from the Persians. They called him the huckster.
That name is just so revealing, isn't it? It wasn't an insult, not really. Not about his effectiveness.
No, it was about his method.
His method. He was the man who, unlike the others who relied on inconsistent gifts, set up these fixed, precise tribute systems. And, as the Chronicle says, he made petty profit out of everything.
That calculating, almost economic identity is the lens we have to use to see his rise. And that rise starts with the immediate, violent purge of anyone who confused their old alliance with, lasting immunity.
Which brings us right to Intrigue.
Let's unpack this. We're starting with a visceral test of Darius's new authority, the reckoning of Intrigue, from chapter 118. This is extreme entitlement meeting absolute control.
The whole problem started with a privilege, a rule they had all agreed on.
The 7 of them.
The 7 of them. They could enter the king's presence unannounced. It was supposed to be a reminder of their status as revolutionaries, as peers.
But there was a condition.
A critical one. Unless the king was occupied with a wife.
And Intrigue, just fueled by his own sense of importance, decides that rule doesn't apply to him.
Right. He shows up at the palace gates, demands to be let in, and the gate warden and a messenger block him. They say the king is engaged.
And you can just feel the tension there. It's not just a servant following orders. It's the new monarchy's rules being enforced against one of its founding members.
Intrigue's state of mind in that moment is it's pure, unchecked arrogance. He doesn't see a law. He sees a courtesy he can ignore. He probably thinks the servants are lying.
He feels he has permanent guaranteed access.
It's more than annoyance. It's this deep indignation. How dare they treat him, a kingmaker, like a common subject? And his response to that feeling.
It's instantaneous and terrifyingly irrational.
The chronicler doesn't hold back at all. And Intrigue pulls out his scimitar and just brutally mutilates the 2 royal servants.
He cuts off their noses and their ears.
Yeah. But the violence isn't even the whole statement. The humiliation is the point. He takes these severed body parts, their noses, their ears, and strings them onto his horse's bridle. Then he ties that bridle around the necks of the victims and lets them go, disfigured and publicly shamed.
It's a message.
It's a direct physical challenge to Darius's power. He's screaming, "My privilege is above the king's law, and any man who enforces that law against me will be dehumanized." He completely confused his past power with his current position, and in doing so, he just threw his own life on the table.
So the mutilated servants make their way to the court. They tell their story. How does Darius react? Is it just pure rage at the insult, or is it more strategic?
It's pure strategy, and it's rooted in fear.
Fear, not anger.
Deep fear. Darius doesn't see one arrogant man. He immediately suspects this is a coordinated move. Remember, the dust from the coup hasn't even settled yet.
He thinks this could be the start of another rebellion.
Exactly. A conspiracy by the other 6 nobles to undermine him, maybe even overthrow him. So his reaction isn't just about punishment. It's about comprehensive elimination of a threat.
Which is why he doesn't just arrest Intrigue right away.
No, his first move is brilliant. He sends for the other 6 nobles, but he does it severally, one by one. He speaks to each of them alone to gauge their reaction to see if they're in on it.
And once he's sure, Intrigue's acted alone.
Then he moves. He orders the man seized, along with his sons and his entire household.
His whole family.
The entire bloodline. This action just establishes how different Darius is. His goal isn't justice for the servants. It's the swift, total removal of a threat. And he doesn't care about guilt by association.
Which leads us into chapter 119, and I think one of the most intellectually chilling moments in the whole chronicle, the wife's impossible choice.
And Tafreni's wife goes to the palace gates and begins this ritual of extreme lamentation. She just weeps and weeps nonstop.
Until Darius notices.
And Darius, maybe moved, maybe just making a calculated PR move, offers her this grim choice. He'll spare the life of one kinsman from her imprisoned family.
So one. Her husband, her children, her brother, they're all facing death. And she has to choose.
The sources say she deliberates, and then she chooses her brother.
And Darius is astonished by this. He asks her, why your brother? Why pass over your husband and your children, who must be closer to you?
And her answer is just.
Yeah?
It's this cold, rational statement of necessity. It tells you so much about the limits of family bonds when you're faced with absolute loss.
What does she say?
She explains, another husband I may get, if heaven so will, and other children if I lose these, but my father and mother are dead, and so I can by no means get another brother.
It's terrifying, isn't it? The logic. A husband, children. In theory, they're replaceable. Fortune can grant you more.
But a brother, once your parents are gone and that biological line is closed, he is irreplaceable. Permanent.
And the most telling part is how Darius reacts.
Darius, the calculating huckster, he approves of her reason. He finds it good. It makes sense to his mind.
He respects the logic over sentiment.
Completely. And because of that, he delivers her brother, and then, as a sort of bonus act of grace, he adds her eldest son.
But the rest of them?
Intafrenes and all the other children executed. The lesson was immediate and absolute. The age of revolutionary partnership is over. You obey the king's fixed law or your entire life structure gets purged from existence.
That sets a perfect, ruthless tone for his reign, doesn't it? And this calculated elimination of threats, it went way beyond the palace walls. Which brings us to the edges of the empire and the fate of Polycrates, the Greek despot of Samos.
Oh, this is a spectacular story. It's almost Shakespearean. A rivalry driven by the absolute pettiest human impulse. Personal spite.
And the antagonist here is a man named Oroetes, the viceroy of Sardis.
The satrap of Sardis, yes. A satrap, for you listening, was the governor of one of these huge administrative provinces Darius would later formalize. Oroetes controlled Phrygia, Lydia, and Ionia. A very powerful man.
And he decides he has to destroy Polycrates of Samos, even though, and the source is very clear on this, Polycrates had given him no hurt by word or deed.
The motivation was all about personal insecurity.
The Chronicle gives two reasons. The first is basically a status quarrel, right, with a fellow governor, Mithridates.
Exactly. Mithridates taunts him. He belittles Oroetes for not being able to conquer Samos, which is right on his doorstep.
He really twists the knife, doesn't he? He points out that Samos was so easy to conquer that some native of it rose against his rulers with 15 men-at-arms and is now lord of it.
That must have stung. It's a direct attack on his competence and his power. So Oroetes needs to destroy the source of his shame, which is Polycrates' independent rule.
And the second motive is even more personal. It's about perceived contempt.
Yeah, this is so visceral. Oroetes' herald goes to see Polycrates, who is reclining with the famous poet Anacreon. And Polycrates, lying with his face to the wall, never turned nor answered him.
Wow. The level of dismissal.
Yeah.
To a powerful Persian governor, that's not just rude. That's a profound imperial insult.
It's saying, you don't matter enough for me to even turn my head. And you have to remember who Polycrates was. He wasn't just some minor tyrant.
He had huge ambitions.
Huge. He was the first Greek we know of who was aiming for real, large-scale mastery of the sea, like the mythical King Minos. He wanted to rule Ionia and the islands. He was already an imperial rival to Persia.
So Oroetes, nursing this personal grudge, decides he's going to be the one to bring him down.
And the scheme he comes up with is a masterclass in deception. It preys directly on Polycrates' biggest vulnerability.
He sends a message from Magnesia with this incredible lure. He claims King Cambyses is plotting to kill him, which ironically wasn't far from the truth for the sick Cambyses, and he offers to share his vast wealth if Polycrates will help him escape.
And the bait is just perfect. Enough money to rule all Hellas.
And the source tells us Polycrates' fatal flaw, his great desire for money.
Agreed. He doesn't go himself at first, though. He sends his trusted scribe, a man named Meandrius, who will become his deputy, his vicegerent, to check things out.
And the fraud that Oroetes constructs is just stunningly simple and effective.
He fills 8 huge chests with stones, just rocks, and then on top he pours a shallow layer of gold.
So Meandrius, the inspector, he sees the glittering surface, assumes the chests are full of gold, and goes back and tells Polycrates the wealth is real.
And greed just completely blinds Polycrates' judgment.
But the warnings were everywhere, weren't they? His friends, the diviners, they were all telling him, don't go.
Everyone was against it. But the most dramatic warning came from his own daughter.
She has this terrifying prophetic dream.
A terrible dream. She sees her father aloft in the air, washed by Zeus and anointed by the sun. It's this heavy, symbolic foreshadowing of a very public, very ugly death. And she pleads with him not to go.
He gets so frustrated with her warnings as he's about to board his ship that he threatens her.
A harsh threat. He says if he returns safely, she'll remain a perpetual virgin. She'll never marry.
And her reply just underscores the terror of the moment. She doesn't back down. She prays that his threat comes true.
She'd rather lose marriage forever than lose her father. That is the gravity of the spiritual warning he chooses to ignore. All for the promise of gold.
But ambition wins. Polycrates sails to Magnesia with a big retinue, including the famous physician Democetes, who is about to have his own story begin.
And the end for Polycrates is swift and brutal. He's foully murdered by Oroetes' men, and then crucified.
Crucified. The chronicler makes a point of saying this was an end that ill-beseemed himself and his pride, a downfall as big as his arrogance.
And the dream, his daughter's prophecy, it was fulfilled with this horrible literalism.
He was aloft in the air.
On the cross, yes. And when it rained, that was Zeus washing him. And the bodily moisture, the sweat and fluids from his body on the cross, that was his anointment by the sun.
An incredible fall for a magnificent tyrant. Not by an army, but by a simple deception fueled by petty greed.
And this brings us right to the consequences for Oroetes. He thinks he's just settled a score, but in Darius's new world, you can't just kill a major regional player at will. Not when your personal vengeance threatens the imperial structure.
Oroetes completely misreads the situation. He sees the chaos after the Magian revolt and thinks it's a green light for total autonomy.
After killing Polycrates, he goes on to settle another score. He murders Mithridates and his son Chronaspes, the very man who taunted him about Samos in the first place.
But the act that truly crossed the line, the one that was basically a declaration of war on Darius's new government, was killing a royal messenger.
This is a constitutional crisis. A royal messenger carries the king's seal, the king's authority. Oroetes ambushes the man, kills him, and gets rid of the body and the horse.
He's openly defying the new king of kings.
He's saying, I, the man who controls Phrygia, Lydia, and Ionia with 1,000 Persian spearmen at my back, do not recognize your authority.
So Darius knows he has to punish him, but he has a huge tactical problem. He's still new to the royal power.
A direct military attack on a governor that powerful could have started a civil war. It could have shattered his fragile new monarchy before it even got started.
So Darius the huckster makes a choice that just defines his entire reign. He rejects force in numbers for cunning.
He calls an assembly of his highest nobles and lays down a challenge. Who, he asks, will bring me Oroetes, alive or dead? Not with an army, but by cunning.
30,000 men volunteer. But the will of the gods, falls to a man named Brigeus.
And Brigeus isn't sent with a legion. He's sent with a stack of scrolls, all stamped with Darius's official seal.
This is a stunning move. It's psychological operations instead of warfare.
Brigeus arrives in Sardis, goes right into Oroetes' court, and begins the slow, calculated test of allegiance. He gives the sealed letters to the royal scribes and has them read aloud, one by one, right in front of the 1,000 Persian spearmen guarding Oroetes.
What's he testing?
He's testing whether the soldier's loyalty is to the man, Oroetes, or to the abstract idea of the seal, the authority of the crown.
And the spearmen, they're trained to respect the hierarchy, the written word, the seal.
So Brigeus has the scribes read out minor commands. Send this man to the king. Appoint that official. And each time the spearmen comply, their loyalty to the distant seal is confirmed.
Then comes a critical moment.
The scribe reads the decisive letter, probably planted right in the middle of the pile, and it says simply, Persians. King Darius forbids you to be Oroetes' guard.
And it works.
Instantly, the spearmen just throw down their spears. The man who was this mighty governor is suddenly powerless. His authority dissolves because the soldiers obey a piece of paper from a king far away over the living man standing right in front of them.
So seeing this total psychological victory, Brigeus plays his final card.
He gives the final scroll to the scribe. The order is direct. King Darius charges the Persians in Sardis to kill Oroetes.
And they do it.
Without hesitation. The now disarmed spearmen draw their scimitars and kill him right then and there. A bloodless internal purge achieved just by manipulating the empire's legal and psychological structure.
So the fall of Oroetes leads directly to the rise of our next figure. Democedes of Croton, the physician found dragging chains among Oroetes' slaves.
Democedes' story is the ultimate proof that in Darius's empire, utility is the highest virtue. It trumps everything. Social status, enslavement, you name it.
He was a celebrated Greek doctor, swept up as a slave of Polycrates, then inherited by Herodotus, and his big break comes from a royal hunting accident.
Darius dislocates his ankle. He calls for his best physicians, the Egyptians, who were famous across the ancient world, but they fail.
They fail spectacularly. They make it worse with what the sources call forcible wrenching,
Which leads to 7 days and nights of excruciating sleepless pain for the king.
So after the Egyptians fail, someone remembers Democedes, the famous Greek doctor held by Herodotus.
So they bring Democedes in, still in rags, dragged in chains. Darius asks if he knows medicine, and Democedes immediately says no.
Why would he do that?
He's terrified. He figures if he reveals how skilled he is, he'll be seen as too valuable to ever let go. He'll be trapped in Persia forever, cut off from his Greek home.
He's trying to hide his own value, but Darius is too sharp for that.
Darius immediately uses his absolute power. He orders scourges and goads to be brought out. Only under threat of torture does Democedes confess, and even then he downplays it, saying he has only some poor acquaintance with the art.
And he applies Greek remedies, gentleness, the source says, and it works. He heals the king's foot, something the great Egyptian doctors couldn't do.
The reward is immediate and very strange. Darius offers him 2 pairs of golden fetters.
Golden chains. It's a symbolic gesture, isn't it? Gratitude and control all at once.
And Democedes' wit is sharp enough to push back. He asks, "Is it your purpose to double my pains for making you whole?" Darius loves this response. He rewards him with a huge house, a place at the king's table, immense wealth.
And Democedes immediately starts using his new influence.
He's very strategic. First, he gets the disgraced Egyptian surgeons pardoned, saving them from being impaled. Then he rescues a fellow Greek, a diviner, from slavery. He's building alliances, showing tactical mercy.
And this utility gets him into the most sensitive part of the empire, the royal bedchamber, through Atassa, Cyrus's daughter, and Darius's wife.
Atassa has a painful swelling on her breast. She hides it out of shame until it gets really severe. She sends for Democedes in secret.
And he agrees to treat her, but he makes a critical demand first.
He makes her swear an oath. If he cures her, she has to grant him any request, as long as it's nothing shameful. It's an amazing leveraging of a medical secret for political power.
And once she's cured,
He cashes in. He prompts Atassa to goad Darius into new conquests. She tells him he's sitting idle, that a young man with great power needs to prove his manhood, or else people will start to conspire against him.
Darius takes the bait. He says he's planning to march on the Scythians in the north.
But Atassa, following Democedes' script perfectly, pivots the entire Persian military machine. She tells him to forget the Scythians, a hard, costly campaign, and march against Hellas instead, against the Greeks.
And her stated reason is just so imperial yet personal. She wants Laconian, Argive, Attic, and Corinthian women for handmaidens.
And just think about that. Democedes, a former slave, is using a medical secret and a queen's desire for exotic servants to direct the foreign policy of the world's biggest empire toward his own homeland.
It's incredible. Darius agrees to send the spying mission first. He puts Democedes in charge, along with 15 notable Persians, and tells the Persians to bring the doctor back no matter what.
And he tests Democedes one last time, offering him anything he wants, immense wealth to take home with him.
But Democedes is too smart for that. He thinks the king is but trying him, testing his loyalty.
If he takes all the gifts, Darius might think he's planning to defect. So he accepts only a ship for the gifts, but leaves his own possessions, his house, his furniture, as collateral. A brilliant psychological move.
It proves to Darius he intends to return.
But he never did.
The Great Escape begins in Taras, Italy.
Yeah, the local king there, Aristophanes, helps him out. He removes the steering gear from the Persian ships and arrests the Persians as spies.
And while they're stuck, Democedes makes his way back to his home city, Croton.
The Persians eventually catch up and find him just openly buying in the town. He's a free man.
And the confrontation splits the Greeks. Some are scared of Persia and want to hand him over.
But others defend him fiercely, beating the king's men with staves, ignoring their threats.
Democedes escapes, but his final move is a masterstroke of political theater.
He makes sure the defeated Persians carry a message back to Darius. He is now betrothed to the daughter of Milon, the most famous wrestler in the world.
And Darius knew Milon's name.
Oh, yes. Democedes paid a huge sum for that marriage, not just for a wife, but to prove his high estimation in his own country to Darius. It was a final message. I'm not an escaped slave. I'm a man of high standing back home.
We've seen calculated elimination, calculated elevation, and escape. Now we turn to the final dramatic chapter of this period, the vengeance of the Red Cloak, which brings us full circle, right back to Samos.
This story is an incredible example of Darius repaying a debt, even when he's ultimately betrayed by his own commander.
And it starts years earlier, doesn't it? During the campaign in Egypt.
Years earlier, Silason, the exiled brother of Polycrates, is in Memphis. He's wearing a single notable red cloak, and a young, unknown Persian soldier in the royal guard sees it and wants it.
And that soldier was Darius.
That soldier was Darius. He offers to buy it, but Silason, in a moment of generosity, just gives it to him for nothing. He figures he just lost his cloak out of foolishness.
But years later, when Darius is king of kings, Silason shows up in Susa and claims to be a benefactor of the king.
And Darius, who never forgot a useful favor, recognizes him immediately. He says that insignificant gift, given when he had no power, was as thankworthy as if someone now gave me a great gift.
He offers Silason gold and silver, but Silason turns it down.
He asks only for Samos to be won back for him, but with a crucial, humane condition: no bloodshed nor enslaving.
Darius agrees and sends Otanes, one of the original 7 conspirators, to lead the army, with explicit orders to protect the Samian people.
Meanwhile, on Samos, Meandrius, the former deputy, had tried to set up a democracy.
He offered to give up power, asking only for a small amount of money and a priesthood.
A pretty honorable transition, but he's immediately rejected. A man named Telesarchus stands up and calls him a low-born knave and a rascal and demands an audit.
So the Samians, who wouldn't accept a low-born ruler, they lose their chance at a peaceful democracy.
Meandrius realizes power is slipping away, so he has the chief citizens arrested. Then he gets sick, and his brother, like Herodotus, seizes his chance and murders all the prisoners.
A complete internal collapse. So when Otanes and the Persians arrive, Meandrius offers to leave peacefully under a treaty.
And Otanes agrees. He fully intends to honor Darius's command. High-ranking Persians are sitting outside the citadel expecting a peaceful handover.
And this is where it all goes wrong, because of Meandrius's crazy brother, Charolaus.
Charolaus is released from a dungeon, sees the Persians sitting there, and just berates Meandrius for cowardice, urging him to attack them.
And Meandrius agrees, not because he thinks he can win.
No, it's pure spite. The source is clear. He grudges Silason getting Samos back safe and whole. He wants to anger the Persians and weaken the island before he leaves.
So Meandrius slips away, and Charolaus attacks. The highest-ranking Persians are slaughtered, an unthinkable betrayal of a surrender.
Otanes' reaction here is so important. He sees his commanders, the most important men, carried in litters, slaughtered, and he deliberately put away from his memory Darius's direct command.
Vengeance and battlefield necessity override the king's orders.
Exactly. He orders his army to kill all Samians they find, men and boys alike. Samos is swept clear, depopulated, and handed over uninhabited to Silason.
The debt of the Red Cloak is paid, but through a brutal, disobedient massacre.
And Meandrius, the man who caused it all, he flees to Sparta and tries to bribe King Cleomenes with gold and silver cups.
But Cleomenes refuses.
A spectacular moment of Spartan integrity. He not only refuses the gifts, but advises the ephors, the magistrates, to banish Meandrius to protect Sparta from his corrupting influence.
All these extreme acts, escapes, and geopolitical shifts, they all connect back to Darius's core identity. The huckster, the regulator, the man who controls necessity. And we see that best in how he reorganized the empire's entire economy.
He knew that for real stability, to prevent threats like Interphrenes and Oroetes, the financial structure had to be locked down. His first big move was creating 20 satrapies fixed provinces and a precise fixed tribute system.
No more chaotic gifts.
No, precision. Tributes in silver were measured by the Babylonian talent, gold by the Euboic talent.
And the exchange rate was fixed at a staggering 13-to-1.
That level of detail, that's the huckster. It was revolutionary. It meant the empire knew exactly what was coming in and when. You could actually budget, you could plan.
The total annual tribute was 14,560 talents.
Yeah.
And the tributes were tailored to each region's resources.
Right. Cilicia didn't just pay silver. They paid 360 white horses a year one for every day. Babylon paid silver and 500 boys to be made eunuchs.
These aren't just taxes, they are structured resource demands.
And India, the richest province, paid 360 talents of gold dust.
And even the way he stored it was calculated. He didn't stack coins.
No, he melted the metal down and poured it into big clay pots. When they were full, he'd break the pottery away, leaving these solid metal ingots.
So when he needed money.
He just took a hammer and chisel and cut a piece off. It was a perfect way to store immense wealth, prevent theft, and ensure liquidity.
Beyond the mechanics of it, the sources get into the really exotic, almost bizarre lengths the empire went to for resources. Which brings us to the famous gold-digging ants of India.
Yes. One of the great weird anecdotes of ancient geography. The chronicler describes these animals as not so big as dogs, but bigger than foxes, and says they dug up sand that was saturated with gold dust.
And the Indians had this whole tactical operation to steal the gold.
A brilliant one. They used 3 camels. A man would ride a female camel in the middle, with 2 males on either side. They'd go out in the hottest part of the day, when the ants were underground, grab the gold, and ride for their lives.
And the key was the female camel.
The key was her motivation. She never tired because she remembered the young calf she left behind, which propelled her to outrun the swift pursuing ants.
It's a fascinating story. But do you think this was maybe a bit of propaganda? A way for the Persians to inflate the difficulty of getting their tribute, to justify its value?
Oh, absolutely. The story elevates the gold from a commodity to a prize won through cunning and bravery. It reflects the nature of Darius's rule itself. If getting the tribute is a heroic act, the empire that demands it is greater still.
We see that same bizarre detail in the accounts of getting spices from Arabia.
It's the same pattern. Arabia was the only source for things like frankincense and cinnamon, but the chronicle makes it sound like an apocalyptic procurement job.
Frankincense trees were guarded by winged snakes.
Winged snakes, yeah, that could only be driven off by the smoke of burning storax. Cassia grew in a lake guarded by bat-like creatures that forced you to wear thick oxides just to get near it.
And the cinnamon story is the most incredible one.
That it was carried to high, inaccessible nests by giant birds. The only way to get it was to leave out huge carcasses of oxen and asses for the birds to carry up. The weight would break the nests, and the cinnamon would fall down the mountain.
So whether these stories are literally true or not, they show the scope of Darius's control and the vital, dangerous resources he commanded.
But nothing, and I mean nothing, encapsulates his persona as the huckster, the monetizer of necessity, better than the story of the Aces River.
This is the perfect example of controlling a resource for profit.
The Aces River used to flow freely from the mountains through 5 gaps, watering all the surrounding plains.
Key agricultural land.
Crucial land. When Darius took over, he ordered those 5 mountain clefts blocked with massive gates. The water was trapped, the plains were deprived of their summer irrigation, and the farmers' crops, their millet and sesame, started to die.
The farmers, desperate, had no choice but to appeal to the king.
And this is the ultimate transaction. They have to travel to the palace and literally cry and howl outside until Darius commands a single river gate to be opened for whichever region needs it most. Once their land has had its fill, the gate is shut again.
And for that access, for water that was once naturally theirs, the king exacts great sums over and above the tribute for the opening of the gates.
He monetized necessity itself. He proved he would make a petty profit out of everything.
Every dramatic event we've talked about today, from the severed ears of the servants to the fall of Polycrates, to the cure of Democedes, to the massacre on Samotide, it all points to the same lesson.
The crown's stability, personal revenge, and wealth extraction were always intensely intertwined in his world.
An entire empire's foreign policy shifted because of a secret illness. The line between servitude and supremacy in Darius's world was just razor thin.
And the ultimate question these chronicles pose is one of utility. Intafrines was uselessly arrogant. He died. Oroetes was rebelliously powerful. He died. But Democedes, who was uniquely useful, he didn't just survive, he thrived. He used his value to direct the king's policy and win his own freedom.
The difference wasn't morality, it was sheer utility. The price of being useful to a king like Darius is your own destiny, which becomes tied to the demands of the empire. You're either invaluable or you're disposable.
And that leaves you with one final thought. Building on that Aces River story, Darius proved that ultimate power comes from monetizing necessity. Intafrines challenged his power, Oroetes' his authority, but what critical resource in your world today, whether it's data access, connectivity, some basic public necessity, is controlled, blocked, and only released at a price over and above the tribute, that constant, subtle cost. That's the ongoing legacy of the Huckster King.